Welcome to the 60 Plus Podcast.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Joe. How are you today, Janet?
Oh, wait.
No, I did that on purpose.
Oh, you're pausing for drama?
Pausing for dramatic effect, yes.
I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah. Things are looking up.
All right. I have to tell you a pet peeve of mine.
Uh-oh.
When someone says, how are you? And they say, I'm good.
Yes? You don't like that?
No, it's I'm well.
Oh, please.
Well, I'm sorry. It's a pet peeve of mine.
You know what?
We're gonna do an episode on grammar.
Oh, please. Well, you're going to be doing it with somebody else.
Our next episode of the 60 Plus Podcast, we'll have special guest.
Dr. So-and-so.
Dr. So-and-so, the grammarian. I would love to be known as a grammarian.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe in your next life.
Okay.
Yeah. But today,
what are we talking about today, Janet?
So we're doing Hot Topic.
Hot Topic.
Woohoo. Like Hot Pocket. Just thinking.
Hot Pockets. That's for a nostalgia episode.
Yeah, exactly. No,
do they still have Hot Pockets?
I think they do. But
isn't it just like a frozen calzone?
You know what? You're asking the wrong person because I don't think I've ever had one.
I don't think I have either.
But I think it is kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah. It's just not as good.
Yeah, not nearly as good, but yeah. Well, I don't know though. I've never had one, so who knows? It could be delicious and full of chemicals. No,
we should do a nostalgia episode just on food that we like.
I think we'll do that. But today, Joe,
let's talk about other things.
God, like
stay on task, Joe. Stay on task.
ADD much?
Shiny objects.
Squirrel. Okay, so we're doing a Hot Topic.
And the topic is?
5 love languages.
Oh.
The 5 love languages.
Now, this was something I wasn't aware of until maybe a year or so ago.
Right. Who told you about it?
I think it might have been you.
I know. I don't think I was aware of it either, and I don't know who told me about it.
It wasn't me because I didn't know about it.
Right. But it's kind of interesting. And actually, when you start talking about it, people are becoming more aware of it and are interested in it. And so we thought maybe we would pulse on this as it relates to the 60 plus audience.
Okay.
So I think first we probably need to describe what the 5 love languages are.
All right. You want to go with that?
Sure. So basically, what the whole theory about this is that your partner will have these love languages. Now, they will demonstrate love languages, but you also might value one or 2 languages over the others, right? So there's like a priority list, if you will.
So is it kind of like some people speak a I'm making air quotes, a love language, and the recipient, the hearer of the love language, they have their own set of preferred love language.
Right. Well, there's love languages.
Like someone speaking Italian to a person that only speaks Chinese.
Right. Right. It might be harder to communicate. I mean, you have love languages that you demonstrate, that you're kind of your go-tos, that that's how you show love,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they have the love languages that they value. So if this is the theory anyway, if there's a disconnect there, you might be spending all this effort on the love languages that are your go-tos where they may not value that one very much. But if you understand what their love language is, both how they demonstrate love and how they receive it or want to receive it, let's say, then you can be in sync.
And I think that would be important, right? If you're speaking Italian to someone that only understands Chinese, you're not really communicating well.
Right. Or it's not that any of these are bad either.
No.
I
didn't mean to imply that Italian or Chinese were bad.
No. So let's talk about what they are. So there are 5 that they mention. And I don't know, do you know who the author of this book is? The original book?
I was trying to think of that. I should have done some research about it.
All right.
No.
Well, why don't you research that while I talk through what the 5 are? So quality time is one of them, and that's, spending quality time with your partner. Physical touch, acts of service, meaning, doing things for your partner, helping them, errands, whatever. Words of affirmation, right? Hearing positive things from your partner.
Well, that can be like compliments or words of encouragement.
Exactly. And the last one is receiving gifts. So those are the five. And we can talk a little bit more about those.
I'm a little surprised. I've done my research.
Yes.
Do you want to hear the results of my research?
I do.
I'm a little surprised by this, actually.
What is it?
The Five Love Languages: How to Express Heartfelt Commitment to Your Mate is a 1992 nonfiction book by Baptist minister Gary Chapman.
Wow.
I didn't know it was a minister.
Well, first of all, 1992. So this has been around for a while.
See,
And it's just gaining traction.
I think that's just very recent.
1992. Okay, Joe, I'm going to try to tell you something now. Are you sitting?
I am.
You are? Okay. Well, I've done the math, and I know you don't like math.
I do like math. You don't like math.
Wait a minute. I love math. No, not really. But that was 32 years ago.
I know.
32. Half our age, half of your age,
Half
anyway.
my age. Yeah.
That was quite a while ago, but as I said, it's gaining traction now. Why? I don't know. Maybe social media. Maybe it has a resurgence.
Maybe
anyway.
we're just more aware of it.
Could be. Could be.
I wonder how many of our listeners actually were aware of the Five Love Languages before this episode.
Well, I don't know, but you know what? We can ask them at the end to let us know what their love language is and if they had known about this before.
Okay.
But anyway, let's carry on. So I guess the first question I had was trying to understand what my own love language was. And is. There's the grammar thing again. All right, Joe, you know what?
The past participle.
Where are we now? You've got, once again, you throw me off track now. I know that's a short putt, but...
You were talking about what your love language was or is, depending upon which tense we're in.
Well, it could have been something different before.
Exactly. This is the reason we're talking about it on the 60 Plus podcast.
Because maybe when I was 30 and I had, small children to care for, I think acts of service would have probably been way up there.
Such as?
Well, having, a lot of help around the house, having help with the children, when you've got so many balls, to throw up in the air and to juggle them, then, you might need that. Maybe when you're in your 20s, physical touch might be the number one. I mean, it probably does change.
It does. And as a matter of fact, I came across an article about this.
Uh-huh.
It's on drpsychmom.com.
That's interesting.
And well, I think she's a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
And she says that for women, the time in life when she sees love language change is young mother.
Yeah.
When acts of service, just what you said, acts of service becomes more important because there are more things to do around your children. The children require more attention from the mom. So the acts of service are more appreciated from the dad or the husband.
Right.
Or the partner.
Right.
For men, it's different. She says it's different for men. Do we want to get into that now? Or do you want...
Why not? Let's do it.
So it's midlife for men. And whatever it was prior, could be words of affirmation. She sees it mostly change to physical touch for men.
Okay, that's interesting.
And not necessarily sex. It can just be hand holding, hugs,
kissing.
Yep.
Yep. Affection.
Just and just like a placing of a hand on your shoulder or something like that.
Right. Well, I just read the most interesting thing. I think it was this morning, maybe yesterday. I don't know. All the days are blurring in one over the other. When you kiss, you want to kiss, not just like the peck on the cheek, whatever, for at least 6 seconds for the feel-good hormone.
Okay.
And with a hug, it's 10 seconds. And so holding that will have you feel that connection that much stronger. I thought that was really interesting.
It is interesting. Have you ever hugged somebody and like it's kind of stiff at first and you hold the hug for longer and you can just feel
it melts a little bit.
That's the exact word I was going to use.
Yeah.
All right. Words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch.
Right.
Now, I did come across a website, fivelovelanguages.com, where you can take a test to find
Yeah,
out
there's a quiz. Yeah.
what you're and you go through. It's like, this
Right.
is more important to me, and it gives you a binary choice.
Right.
And you go through it, and it tells you what your love language is.
Tells you what your primary one is.
Hmm.
Because honestly, if you look through these, all of them are kind of important. And it's nice to have a little bit of everything, I suppose.
I don't know if I'm boasting here,
Oh, here we go.
but I like to think that I'm fluent in all 5 love
Oh,
languages.
God. Well, that's fine, Joe. But the question is, do you know what your partner's most valued love language is? Because again, you might be leading with one of those 5, even though you're fluent in all of them, but that may not be the most important one for her.
Well, so, when in Rome,
Yes.
you do what you're supposed
the
to
Romans
do what the Romans do. So depending upon the situation, the love language that you're expressing can be different.
Well, I agree with that. Like, for instance, if you get to a holiday, like your birthday, that's, that in and of itself is kind of a cultural thing. Like how you grew up and how important birthdays were to you may make that receiving gifts on that day that much more important, right? If you grew up in a family where they weren't really that recognized or whatever, then it's not that big of a deal. But it may have been for your partner.
Hmm.
So even understanding how you feel about each one of those, I guess, and if there's a connection between each one of those may be important, right? To break down all 5 of them, say how important is quality time versus physical touch. But doing the quiz will give you those percentages across those 5 if you unlock the subscription. But
Hmm.
doing the quiz will give you your top one, as we know, because we both just did it.
We did.
Yes.
Do you want to reveal? Do you
So
want?
what was your top love language?
Well, like Dr. Psych Mom says, physical touch.
Okay. So that's what you need,
Mhm.
right? Not what you necessarily give. What do you think is the love language that you demonstrate the most? And I have a theory about this.
Well, see, receiving gifts is the
No,
love language. I like to
just-
give gifts.
Yes, you like to give gifts.
I do.
And you're good at that.
I like
So
to think
that's
so.
how the primary way that you show your love. But if you're doing that with somebody who maybe is uncomfortable with gifts,
Hmm.
and is maybe values one of the other 4, then you're putting all this effort into this one thing. And until maybe they get comfortable with it, it's going to be a mismatch, right?
Well, they should just get in line. They should just figure it out and say,
Of course. Say, gosh, darn it, appreciate this gift, whether it makes you uncomfortable or not.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Let's see.
All right, so yours,
Mine's quality time.
quality
Actually,
time.
it was 33% quality time. It was quality time, which means there's another, 67% of
To share among the 4 other love
share
languages.
among the 4 other. I can tell you probably what my least. It seemed like when I was doing the quiz, receiving gifts was not the choice, except maybe in one instance on that quiz.
Well, you and I have talked about this,
yeah.
and I think receiving a gift from a good gift giver from a terrible gift giver is very different.
Things. And it's not like I don't enjoy receiving gifts.
Hmm.
I love those little things that end up on my back stairs.
From neighbors
from
and
neighbors and stuff. It's
fresh
just sweet.
fish
So
or
I know. I'm just like trying to understand the priority of each of these. And yeah, I love, quality time, spending time with your partner, doing something fun. I also kind of put laughter in there, having a good time and enjoying each other's company.
which of the 5 does that come under?
I feel like it's under quality time.
I would say, yeah. Being with someone and just being bored out of your mind and not enjoying the time
right.
is different. In that's not quality time. It's just time.
That in and of itself needs to be defined. Like what's quality time to you may not be quality time to the other person.
So sitting together and doing a spreadsheet or reading the Elements of Style, that would be good quality time.
Yeah, so you have
Nothing
to
like a good pivot table.
Right. But, I guess this is kind of a, way to have the conversation, right? You
Hmm.
can both do the quiz. You can talk to each other about, oh, if quality time is your love language, what does that mean for you? Right.
Well,
So,
so I'm
otherwise we're guessing, right?
well, okay. There's an article on Forbes.com, Forbes Health, and quality time. They define it as having your partner's undivided attention. So it's not hanging out with a group and being at a party. That can be
You
good
mean they don't
fun,
have their phone in their hand and they're constantly looking down at it and going on Facebook and messaging other people and whatnot?
I guess. But undivided attention, well, and not being with a group or,
Right.
like I said, at a party. That can be fun. It can be a great time, but it's not the love language of
Well, if
quality
that's
time.
also what you want to do together, if you're
Hmm.
still together doing that,
Hmm.
you know? So I guess understanding what undivided attention means. I mean, if I were to go to a party with somebody and we were together at the party, that still to me would be quality time.
But I don't
I'm
think it's the
loosening the
quality time of
definition.
the love language in the love language lexicon.
Right, but this is a framework. This isn't the end all to be all. I mean, I think that's where the dialogue comes in, is being able to say what is important to you and what does that mean and what does that look like? And if your partner is willing to respond to that, that's I think the crux of it, right? So,
Again, according to this Forbes Health article, love languages are fluid.
mhm.
Most people have more than one, and it can change with age. I know what Forbes Health says. Why do you think it changes with age? Not the mom thing with
Well,
the
because your needs change, don't they? Well,
they can,
yeah.
but Forbes Health also seems to say that it's because we know ourselves better as we
Yes, and I
mature.
agree with that. I agree with that. We're in this part of life where many of us may be on our own, and you start to ask the question, what do I want? What's important to me? Because otherwise, you may be completely ignorant of that if you've been so focused on taking care of everybody else and just trying to like get through your daily life or whatever with all your responsibilities. We haven't had the time to kind of do this reflection and say, what makes me happy? What is it that I want in a relationship? What does that look like for me? That takes time and reflection and some real honesty. So I think that when we're older, we have that more than we had. And I also think TikTok, the clock is ticking.
Hmm.
So quality time, to me, it makes sense that that would kind of move up the list. It's less about doing and more about enjoying every moment because you don't know how many more moments you have left or that, those moments may be.
What a buzzkill you are.
Well, you start to think about that more, don't you?
I don't.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but
Other people. I mean, we talked with Scott
I
a
mean
couple
the
of weeks ago.
universal me.
Yeah. We talked with Scott a couple weeks ago, and he kind of said the same thing. He says, "I don't know how much time I have left."
Hmm. Well, when you get those threats too, I think it comes to the forefront again. Anybody who's come close to, dare I say it, death,
Hmm.
um, you become much more inclined to be grateful for every single moment and want to spend it in the ways that are most important to you or whatever it is that your goals are for the remainder of your life.
So I think it's important to communicate with your partner
Absolutely.
and maybe take a quiz. I'm sure there are more than one, but fivelovelanguages.com will reveal
Yeah,
your
that was an easy one to do.
your
Didn't take a
primary.
long time.
No, it
Yeah.
didn't. And act accordingly.
Right. If you
Right.
care. If you care to. Yeah.
Well, if you don't care, then why why are
Why
you
are
in a
you in a
relationship?
relationship?
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care.
Well, actually, if you think about that, Joe,
Hmm.
right? That may be part of why relationships fail. And we know that there's a high failure rate. I mean, 50% statistically, but that whole gray divorce thing, you know, maybe there's been a mismatch in these things. I can imagine that would be frustrating. If you've
Well,
been
and the
trying to show
mismatch
love.
may occur during the course of the relationship because love languages do change.
Right,
So
exactly.
maybe there was a
Yeah,
good
you know
match
how people
early.
say, "Oh, we grew apart.
Hmm.
We didn't want the same things." You know, those are the types of things that you hear.
Yes, they are.
Mm.
Well, do you have anything else you want to add about love languages? And
Are you telling me our time is up?
we're approaching that.
Really?
Yeah, we really are.
Wow, that went a lot faster than I thought.
Okay. Well, it's the quality time we spend together.
Ah, see? Where's my gift?
Your gift is I will edit this episode.
Oh, I know.
Or is that an act of service? It might
I
be
think
both.
it might be an act of
It might be
service.
both.
Yeah, I think it's an act of service. Or it just may be part of the partnership we have here.
Earlier,
Yes.
you said we were going to ask our listeners something. I forget what it was.
What they think their love language is, or do the quiz and share what their love language is and whether they had heard about this before.
I'm asking for an act of service.
What's that?
Like and subscribe and share the 60 Plus podcast.
Share.
Best place to listen is Spotify if you're not listening on Spotify, but all the other podcast players is
It all works.
they all work.
It all works.
And if you go to Spotify, there's a place where you can leave a comment and let us know what your love language is.
Right.
So
Have we heard from any of our listeners in the past weeks?
we have. Don't recall off the top of my head what some of the comments were. There were a couple from a listener about the nostalgia
Yes.
episode, things that they remember and miss.
Yeah, and I
Listeners.
think we should start talking about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So shout out to all the people who do comment, and you know, we do look at those, and I think we're going to start talking about them.
All right. So that's it for this week's episode of the 60 Plus podcast. I'm Joe.
I'm Janet. Bye.